We are here with another edition of Jeff and Jamie Feed.
Well, this is going to be a lot of fun. We've got our sommelier Michael Klinger joining us today. And not to brag here, but I feel like one of the things we do so well at our restaurants is we're able to kind of pull together food and beverage together. And that sounds silly, but we've had Colleen here already, in a former episode, and just diving into all of the things that she does to make a meal more perfect, more well-rounded, more enjoyable. And we get that same kind of look with Michael on the wine side.
Yeah, and he adds so much to a meal just from a taste standpoint, but then you add in the knowledge and the theatrics and the pairing and the exactness of it all. His knowledge is immense. He is just a wonderful person. And I love hanging out with him. I love even when he comes over to our table.
Well, yes, he takes a meal and just takes it to this other place. And I think part of it's the education that he's providing with the wines. You're learning nuances about wines and how they pair with your food. But you've also got the showmanship of him at the table, too.
He geeks out over it. He is excited about it. And he gives you just these little talking points and details that you would never think of. And then when you're eating and you reflect back on those, it blows your mind. It's awesome.
I want to make sure we pause for a little clip from Fork and Hammer here where you can actually see Michael at the table with his showmanship, because he may come to your table if you dine at Supperland or Alleluia Hall, where he runs shifts there sometimes. But if you've never had him grace your table, this will give you a little glimpse of it.
The whole service is in high action. There are plates being served and food coming off the fire, and Michael is going from table to table, making sure that every single person is overjoyed with the wine that they've selected for dinner.
So we're going to the first white wine. They call this one Funky and Fearless. It's made in California, but inspired by the Mediterranean. There's some seaweed, some furikake notes in the halibut, the burrata, and the tomatoes, and the country ham, as well as the richness of the corn, some mozzarella, country ham instead of prosciutto, some tomatoes. I was thinking southern Italy. I think this is going to be an excellent pairing. This should be an excellent pairing. And then after this, we'll have a few reds.
Let's go ahead and bring Michael Klinger on.
I love it. Come on, Michael.
All right. Well, Michael Klinger, welcome to the show today. We are so glad to have you on. Michael is a level 3 sommelier, and we're going to dive into all things about what that even means. Michael, you make our restaurant experiences so much better across the board. And I thought we could start with just talk to us about what it means to be a sommelier, a level 3 sommelier.
Yeah, what do all your pins mean?
You've got pins all over you.
I'm the only one allowed to wear flair in the dining room.
That's right.
Sommelier is, well, it's a couple things. Most people just think of the wine expertise, and obviously that is a big part of it. For every level of sommelier certification, there are multiple parts to an exam. You do have to identify blind wines in a tasting. They'll serve you 6 wines, and you'll have 20 minutes to figure out what grapes they are, where they come from, roughly what year, what level of quality. So there's a tasting component. You obviously got to practice, and that's... We do that early in the mornings and we spit, but sometimes a favorite wine gets enjoyed later that night. Of course, there is a lot of knowledge about wine. I'll study, I'll make flashcards, have to memorize Grand Crus in Burgundy, classifications of Bordeaux, aging requirements in Rioja. I know you've been there. So, of course, we call that the theory, the knowledge. And then a big part of it, which a lot of people maybe don't think about as much, but there's the service and hospitality aspect of it. So part of the exam is doing service at a table, decanting, doing champagne, but also answering a guest's questions. And the focus on the guest is a big part of the sommelier certification. That is different than if you just want to learn about wine, you can study WSET, Wine and Spirits Education Trust. You can take wine classes, you can study other things, but being the sommelier does entail all of the front of house, hospitality, restaurant operations. We even have to know liquor and tea. All those fun things.
Yes. Was on there. But I knew you had to know beer and liquor, but
beer and liquor, tea's getting there. A little bit of coffee. Well, it's replaced cigars. We don't have any. So I think even a little before my time. I've been doing this a while, but before my time, you did have to know about cigars. But we've removed the humidors at all the restaurants, and so you don't see too many smoking rooms anymore. But they have added some other things to make
I
up for
didn't
that.
even know there was that hospitality piece that was a part of it. And so, we just showed a clip from Fork and Hammer of you at a table, but I've mentioned this, like that notion of showmanship. I, always feel like you take that to like a whole other level at the table. But it's also part of your training. And I guess I didn't even realize that, but you're just like excellent in that.
They do make it a focus. There's the different tracks of wine knowledge. Being a sommelier has that emphasis on service, hospitality, taking care of the guest, and showmanship's a little bit of it. We don't do it as much.
How many bottles of wine have you probably opened, in public? I mean, 100,000. I mean, it's got to be an incredible.
The math is frightening. Probably at least 100 a week for 20 years. So I could get the abacus out. But, too many. Occasionally my forearm gets a little sore here, but yes.
I knew that was part of the sommelier test, that they watch you. There's a certain way you present the bottle, and you go through, all the steps. And I know we have a joke when we're out to dinner and someone's not presenting the bottle, not opening it right, the cork breaks, and then they're pouring and they're dripping stuff all over the table, and it's always, that's one way to do it.
One way. There's also a right way, or there's the way that the Court of Master Sommeliers expects you to do it. They do have a list of service standards, so you do end up getting your cert. So you study on your own, and then you get your certifications through the Court of Master Sommelier. And there are different levels. We've recently had some people in our restaurant group do the level 1, which is what they call the introductory course. And that is, a little bit of wine knowledge, a little bit of tasting, not too much service, but that's where you get your start. It's sort of like taking a survey course, maybe doing a pre-med as opposed to like going to medical school and then becoming a doctor. And that's where it starts to get with level 2, where they call that certified. And that's where you're certified. You're a real sommelier at level 2. The exam does get a lot more intense at that level. There is the full-on tasting and service component. And then level 3 is something they came up with maybe 20 years ago. That's meant to be a bridge between a certified sommelier and then a level 4, which is the master. There's only about 300 of those in the world.
Wow.
I think in the past 2 years, only 3 people in America have passed that exam.
Wow.
So some people say it's the hardest exam in the world. I don't know about all that, but it's pretty hard.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so I wear the level 3 pin. So maybe one day I'll try for 4. Some people are trying to get me to try it next year for the first time. And then the one below that, since you asked about the pin, is for my
So I
Chianti
assume you
Classico.
have to like actually pass. You pass 1, then you get the chance to take 2. You have to pass
Yeah, you
them in
can't
order.
just jump into the master test.
There's no skipping.
There's no skipping.
No. They even make you test before level 3, the advanced exam. They now make you go to a advanced course because so many people were failing level 3 that
Okay.
they actually, before you are even allowed to take level 3, you now have to attend what they call the advanced sommelier course.
Because that would waste their time too if they have all these people showing up and not
it
passing,
saves
I
them
guess.
a plane ride to place and a hotel stay. Although what they have done in the past few years is now you are doing the theory portion like at a testing center.
Oh,
So
okay.
then I know some people here in Charlotte, some of the younger sommeliers here, they haven't had to go fly somewhere to take the theory portion. You can take that, sort of like
That's
a
gotta
time test
feel
online.
good though to have that behind you and then just focus on the tasting.
And then you go to tasting and service for the in-person exam.
What would you say is your sommelier superpower though? Like what obviously you have to have some cheat codes and superpowers to get to where you are. So what do you think those are?
It's definitely not tasting. That's always been the hardest part for me. People say, "Oh, you must have a natural palate." I definitely don't. It's just been years and years of practice, getting together with people at 9 a.m. every Monday, tasting wines, spitting them, tasting them side by side. Smelling something, tasting something, and immediately knowing exactly what grape that is. Never been anything that's taken a lot of practice, and even on a good day, I've done enough to pass a test, but still something I can struggle with. I'd say the superpower is, the table presence.
Yeah.
I do.
I mean, that's where I
think,
put it.
I like talking to people. I like smiling. Knowledge is there.
The knowledge, you have it. Like it is locked in.
Yes, I've written out a lot of notes and studied a lot of maps, and I've got the knowledge. And I was, recently studying up for a sommelier event back in January. So I was going through my notes. I was like, oh, this is all coming back to me. I've got the knowledge, but I think anybody, but being at a table, talking to the guest, not and about the wine, but then about their whole experience there. That's like that's my favorite part.
Do you think that has threads of your history in theater and drama?
I think so.
Yeah,
you know,
I think so.
It's not dinner and a show. Dinner is the show.
Dinner is the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what do you think it is about wine that what does wine do to a meal in your view?
I mean, to me, it's not even a meal without wine.
that.
I mean, there's breakfast, but bubbles of breakfast. I mean, a meal. I mean, a wine can transport an evening. I mean, it can be a perfect pairing with food. There is. You talk about food pairing. There is the right flavor profile of the right wine can enhance a particular dish or go across a few dishes, and the pairing can make the food taste better. The right food can make the wine taste better. There's interactive things with pairing. But there's something experiential about, there's the experience, the tradition, the show of opening the wine, presenting a bottle from sometimes the West Coast or Europe or Australia. They're making wine there. You're bringing something from far away that, some artisan producer has grown the grapes and made this special bottle of wine. Maybe it's limited, maybe it's special. It's going to be special to the people drinking it. There's the theater of taking the cork out, screwing the cap, popping the cork on the champagne, and then the people all share it together. When you have a bottle of wine at a table, okay, maybe you're all taking different bites of dish, but you're all sipping on the same wine sometimes. You can talk about maybe it's a place you went to, maybe it's a place you visited, maybe it's a place you haven't been, and the sommelier is telling you about it and transporting you there, just at the table with your meal, but. The experience, the romance. There's so much in a bottle of wine. There's the history, the culture, so many things behind it. Why those grapes were planted there, why the people grow it, why they make it the way they do, the style, why they send it to different places, how the wine ends up there. There's a reason for everything. And once it's in the glass, it all comes together.
Yeah. And I know you love having wine with your meals, and you're much more of a white wine drinker than red.
Sure. For sure. I think
and I don't know what Michael would have to say about that.
Michael leans towards that I think we find a lot of joy in the first few courses of a meal and playing around with the white wines at the beginning and even maybe before a meal starts.
Maybe.
But doing some, I think if we were hanging out and you were ordering all the wine, you would probably delight the people with some bubbles and some rosé and some light whites and more acidic whites and then like maybe that final main course entree where we're having some lamb or a steak or something, you'd throw a tannic red in there at the end. But
I would. I think you could cover for me some.
I know.
Step in on a Saturday night. I'd let one off soon.
But
where's your pin, Jeff?
It's much different. I think it's much different than the average. I think we sell a lot of red wine in Charlotte, and I think there's so many nuances and lovely things about the white wines that people miss and skip over.
Certainly, speaking for myself, speaking for a lot of sommeliers, but definitely myself, I drink, I don't know about far more, but definitely more white wine than red. I will open, of course, a great red wine if I'm making a steak, making a lamb. There's especially or some Italian sauces. We've got a little red sauce with a ragu. Yes, you're going to get some Sangiovese there. But white wine, the versatility of it, the lightness, the brightness, it goes with so many different foods, not just fish, but vegetables, but chicken, but so many preparations of pork. So many different styles of cuisine. It's amazing with Thai, Vietnamese, Asian cuisine, but also traditional German cuisine, sausages. I like my schnitzels and my Gruner Veltliner from Austria. But I do drink more white than red. And I just love that progression. Now, before food, I'll probably having a cocktail, maybe a beer, maybe champagne.
Yeah.
But as you're progressing in that meal, as you're working from those lighter flavors up to the main course, we love our raw bar, our seafood, our salads. Definitely
like
having white wine there.
We obviously have a pretty advanced mixology program, and I like that you acquiesce and say, okay, when you first show up at the table, sure, grab a cocktail, hang out with your friends at the bar, but when you sit down and you go to eat food and you're really looking to pair that food and heighten the experience of that food, then let's shift over. Let's get some bottles of wine.
Yeah, wine is my job. It's what got me the pins. But I am still having a cocktail before dinner if I'm coming, especially to one of our restaurants, really anywhere with this great mixology program. I love to start with a cocktail, sometimes two. But then, and I know there are so many cocktails, and I know we're intentional about it, that can pair with food, and that can be so much fun. Obviously, what we do in the speakeasy or just in the dining room is amazing. But for me, there is something about, especially if it's, even if it's just a glass of something with some entrees, knowing I'm going to get a red wine later, or just sharing that bottle at a table. I mean, a seafood tower and some Chablis or some Albarino, it's pretty tough.
Well, it is, like you were saying, like so communal. And when everybody is sharing the same thing, and we obviously do a lot of family style meals there, then you're sharing everything together, and having that bottle of wine with it just takes it to that other level. Yeah. So here we are. The weather is starting to get warmer. What is Michael Klinger enjoying white wine wise or lighter wines this time of year? Like, what would you suggest? What are some pro things that you'd suggest for this year?
I mean, everyone's drinking Sauvignon Blanc, and I can't blame them. It's delightful. It's delicious. Of course, a lot of people are still drinking, Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, you just got back from Australia, so
I did. They make some great in the Adelaide Hills, a wonderful place for Sauvignon Blanc. You may see one by the glass at Supperland starting in a week or two.
Okay.
So that was a great discovery. I've had Sauvignon Blanc on some of my trips to Austria. They make that in the Styria region in southern Austria. We've got a few bottles at Supperland. At Leluya Hall, we pour one from Chile, with a lot of the kind of coastal American flavors there. I've kind of tried to lean into that. Some of our white wines over at Leluya that I love for the summer are Sauvignon Blanc, which people are going to drink because it's Sauvignon Blanc. But I found one from the Maule Valley, this old historic area in Chile where the missionaries were planting grapes hundreds of years ago. Then it got forgotten about. Now there's this resurgence of young winemakers rediscovering things. Yes. And it's a Sauvignon Blanc planted in volcanic soil. And it goes so well with our crudo ceviche, so many things over there. So, of course, there's Sauvignon Blanc. People drink it year-round, but especially light and crisp, great for the summertime. Well, I'm not alone because I know Jeff's drinking it too, but I love Albarino.
Yes, tell us more about Albarinos, because yes, he does love that.
Yes, I might be responsible for. Well, it's a group passion there. So that is a favorite white wine. That is one that's on my table quite often, especially in the summertime.
Per dollar, I think it always crushes it. I mean, because it's hard to find an Albarino in a restaurant for over $100.
You can come to our restaurants.
I know we search out to find we've got some special ones there. So we're like, but you get a $90, $80 Albarino, and $60-$70
in a restaurant. It's still going to be delightful.
It blows everything away.
Yes, I think the quality across the board is high, so it's unique to Spain. But they do plant it in other places. You'll see some people experimenting in cool climates from around the world working with Albarino. But it is native to Galicia in Spain, so sort of northwest Spain, right above the Portuguese border, an area called Rías Baixas, which means land of estuaries. And so
I never knew how to pronounce that. Rías Baixas.
Did it sound good?
It sounded like you knew what you were talking about. I'm totally captivated.
It's wonderful. Yeah. But, I remember we had years ago an oyster class at Supperland, and there's something about an estuary where the river meets the sea, a perfect place for oysters. And a lot of times the wines from those regions then become perfect oyster wines. So I think we've enjoyed Albarino and oysters together. So it's a grape that has a little bit of it's not floral, but has a little bit of an orange blossom aroma to it. Really nice, stone, nectarine, dried peach, tart peach fruit. It's usually unoaked, which is something I like to drink in the summertime. A lot of the white wines I'm drinking in the summer are going to be unoaked.
What does that mean exactly when you say unoaked?
That means when you're either fermenting or usually with white wines, aging the wines. You have a choice of vessels. After you press the grapes and ferment the grapes, they need to kind of chill out somewhere before you put them in bottle. So traditionally, for a lot of white wines, they would put them in an oak barrel. And that would preserve the wine. It would help the wine develop, but it would add toasty baking spice. It would add some weight to the wine. And then, especially since the 1970s or even before that, post-World War II, modern technology, a lot of people are aging wine in stainless steel. Mm-hmm. And that still allows the wine to relax before you bottle it, gets it ready for market, but it will preserve the freshness, the brightness in wine, make it a little bit crisper, usually avoiding those vanilla, toasty, baking spice flavors that you get from aging in an oak barrel. So it usually just makes for a lighter, crisper wine, suited to lighter, crisper summer foods. Now so that's most Albarino. And it's versatile. It is something that's catching on in the marketplace. We pour one by the glass at both Leluya Hall and Supperland, and they do very well. In fact, I've been almost running out of stock on a new one at Leluya Hall on a weekly basis.
Is it just me that's drinking them all? Or
it is not.
Oh.
It is still not overtaken
I'm not moving
Sauvignon
the
Blanc
market yet.
But we are selling, for example, we are selling more Albarino than Chardonnay by the glass.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is catching on, and
Surprising.
again, it works with our cuisine. The staff is passionate about it. I taste. Whenever we add a new wine or hire a new server, we always taste the Albarino's gone over very well. People are traveling to Spain. People are maybe even going to that part of Spain, the Camino de Santiago. A lot of people are visiting Portugal there. Albarino is what they call it in Spain. They actually believe the grape is native to the other side of the border, just across the Minho River. You get into Portugal, to the Vinho Verde region, where they call it Alvarinho with a V. Say the grape is probably actually native to the Portuguese side of the border, but the border shifts a little bit. We've had it. I think Catherine from Everondolo and Growlers here just got back from Portugal. There are more Americans traveling to Portugal every year, traveling to this Galicia part of Spain. People recognize Albarino.
Okay.
And I've also seen, again, the price to quality ratio is incredible, but because people are now familiar with it enough, they're not just associating it with a $12 glass of wine. We are having great success at both restaurants selling a $90, $100, $120 Albarino. People recognize that, hey, this is something that's not just a quaffable light summer wine. It is something that can achieve a height that people only used to spend that kind of money on a Chardonnay, white Burgundy, maybe a nice Sancerre. We're starting to see people see that for Albarino.
If you get a seafood tower, it's a no-brainer.
There's so many wines that go with a seafood tower, but Albarino is a favorite. I am not going to say no to a Chablis. I know that's one that we go back with the Chablis. We look for unoaked wines again with the seafood tower.
Okay.
There was I was reading. This was a master sommelier, Greg Harrington. I think it might have been him that said it. It was sort of an analogy about pairing wine with food and things. And he would say, if you think about a food and you could squeeze a lime on it, that would go with an unoaked white wine.
Oh, interesting.
So think, obviously shellfish.
That's a good rule for me because it's simple.
Yes.
I can get that.
And then if you think of the food and it goes well with butter, then you could pair a Chardonnay or an oaked wine with it. So
Okay, I like
lobster
that.
or cream
I
sauces,
like
things
that.
like that.
I'm not a big. I love the Chardonnay grape, but I'm not a big California super oaked Chardonnay guy. But then when we were at the French Laundry and we had that bite of the butter poached lobster.
You said butter twice, and it was in there 3 times.
Yeah,
Actually,
because it was
so good.
wow, and then you have it with the buttery vanilla Chardonnay from California, and it blew my mind.
That is a great example of the wine elevating the dish elevating the wine. Like that dish on its own was going to be delicious. That wine on its own is going to be delicious, but they paired so well together that they interplayed. You can have an example where a dish like that is so heavy it overwhelms the wine, and then that doesn't work. You can have a wine like that, but maybe the food isn't rich enough, and the wine overpowers the food. But when you get those moments where they enhance each other, the balance is perfect, they complement each other, each bite makes the next sip better, and vice versa.
That's what you're looking to do.
That's the magic at the table with the pairing.
I love that.
But yeah, so and then a lot of people. Now there's a lot of great Chardonnay being made in California. Obviously, that Reese Barrawalla Vineyard Chardonnay was a special one. But there are a lot of producers in America, in Australia too, looking to make a little bit more balanced style of Chardonnay.
Okay.
People experimenting either with less oak, less new oak, cooler climates, earlier harvesting. I think there was a reaction, of course, to high alcohol, heavy, buttery, oaky wines. Now, there's still a place for them when they're executed well, as we've seen. But it's not just France. It's making delightful styles of Chardonnay that we like. You are seeing wonderful producers in California, Australia, and across the world dialing back the oak, dialing back the alcohol, and making some extremely delightful Chardonnays.
Okay, I love it. So we talked Sauvignon Blanc, Albarino, Chardonnay. Any other ones for summer that you think are must-haves, or maybe they're things that people don't know about that you think are just surprising, and you'd be like,
Well,
you would
There's
have
a
a
lot, but if I had to if I have to stop at one more, there's one that we pour by the glass at Leluia Hall for the first summer, and then I took it off in the winter because it was definitely a summer wine. And it's a grape called Picpoul.
I don't know this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
Jeff's
Yeah.
a big Picpoul guy.
Is he? I don't even know that.
maybe.
Jeff, I'm learning new
We
things
had
about
that
you all the
other
time.
day.
Oh, wonderful. So that is a grape that's native to the Languedoc in like near Montpellier in southwest France, and the grape literally means lip stinger because it has this like little zesty, mouth-watering, makes your lips smack when you get it. So and it comes from right where river enters into the Mediterranean Ocean. Some of the best oyster beds in the Mediterranean come from this area right off the coast of Montpellier, and they have this wine that's naturally evolved to be this. It's almost always unoaked. It has the citrusy component of Sauvignon Blanc, but without so much of like the grassy herbaceousness that some people love, some people don't. And I just remember my first time as a wine buyer for a wine store in Chapel Hill, went to a wine trip in France for an exhibition of wines from southwest France called Vinisud. And I went there specifically looking, among other things, for a Picpoul, because every summer we found one to feature in the wine store. We call it stacking. We'd buy like 3, 5, 20 cases of it, and everybody come in looking for a summer white wine. This is just one we'd point to. And there was a hall of maybe 15, 20 people showing Picpouls at this trade show. And like in the center of the halls and between the trade tables, they were coming in with just wheelbarrows of oysters from the Mediterranean.
Oh, wow.
And like they had a shucking station. Like, okay, this is oyster
That's
and
how
wine
you sell
country.
some wine.
Yes, I bought some. Maybe,
Yeah.
I love
maybe
that.
50,
Yeah.
100 cases, but it was really good.
And Michael hasn't. He left. He went around his favorite thing too. Like bubbles always has a place.
I was thinking we got to jump into a little bit of champagne.
Trento Doc, all the things.
Yes. Now I don't limit that to summertime.
Yes,
Right.
I was
Sure.
going to
That is-
say.
that is
I
So-
figured that was
and,
year
and,
round.
and it's its own category. Now I mean, most sparkling wine is going to look white, but it's made from red grapes. I mean, I love it.
I know.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
when
do.
I used to, when people asked me my favorite wine, I would say something like a Barolo, which I love.
Yeah.
You know, some fancy, expensive, heavy red wine. Nowadays, people ask me, it's champagne. It's delightful. It's celebratory. You can have it with everything. But I drink that year round. It is just the most, especially whenever I get together with some wine friends. I had a very good wine friend come visit from Virginia, and we started with
That's what you
at least
begin.
one bottle of champagne. It was a long night, but it was
I-
so
I-
fun.
Can you and I know you've explained this to our team, done a lot of training and stuff, which is so helpful for people to understand what makes champagne so special about the process of how it is made versus just like a cava or a prosecco, and just in the process of that. And I think that might just open people's eyes to what makes it so special.
I mean, the main things many people know, but some people, especially when I'm doing a wine training with new servers, new team members. So a champagne's sparkle, it's bubbles. It comes from a second fermentation that happens inside of the bottle that you're eventually going to be drinking out of. So they start with making a white wine, just a nice, light, simple white wine from the Champagne area or wherever the sparkling wine region is. Then they bottle that. And they put like a little bit of a mix of sugar and yeast into that white wine, and then put like a crown bottle cap on it. And so that little bit more sugar and yeast inside that wine will start a second fermentation. And a byproduct of fermentation is carbon dioxide, CO2. But now that's all trapped in there. Mm-hmm. So a wine spends a week or two going through another fermentation. There's bubbles trapped in that wine. And then they age it. And this is what they do with cava and some other sparkling wine regions, but was started in Champagne, and they still probably do the most of it, is that they will, before they release that wine, they will age it for 18, 24, 30 months for your average champagne, and then special ones can be 4, 5, 6 years. As it's aging, those yeast cells are in there too. And it's a process they call autolysis, but it adds richness, creaminess, texture. If you ever read if you've read tasting notes of champagne, you'll see, brioche, fresh baked bread.
Yeah, that breadiness is
That
just
breadiness, it just gives it a creaminess. Now you can do that. I tasted some amazing sparkling wine in Tasmania recently. I did it last summer in the Santa Lucia Highlands. You can find some of these wines at our restaurants. There are other places making champagne-style wines with that traditional method, that second fermentation in the bottle, that long aging. Champagne, it's special. They've been doing it the longest, and then they've also got a unique soil type there. You know, all of that part of southern England, northern France used to be underwater. You know, if you ever seen pictures of like the White Cliffs of Dover, there's that chalk, white like bedrock, and it's from millions of years of fossilized oyster shells. They call it Kimmeridgian marl or limestone. It's like a limestone clay mix, and that can find that in other parts of the world, but that is very unique to southern England where they're making great sparkling wine. But northern France, you get it a little bit in Chablis and Sancerre, but especially Champagne. It's this, and it imparts a wonderful minerality and acidity that balances with that richness, and it's probably my favorite thing.
I love how he gets.
Yes,
it's so great.
I know. It seems like
I'm
he's getting
excited
carried
too
away,
now.
but like this is just
I have
like
to drink some champagne.
the
Why
passion.
later.
didn't we bring a bottle?
I know
What are we
water's not
doing?
really cutting it. Why didn't we pop some bubbles here? My goodness, what were we thinking? Well, what are some of the most exciting things you're seeing? I know you've talked a little bit about some of these new things that some winemakers are doing. What are you seeing out there that's really interesting and maybe from different parts of the world, maybe that you've traveled to recently or whatever, that you find really exciting, that people are doing maybe different things, maybe different flavors or different styles or... is that-
You know, across the wine world, people are making an effort to, especially with red wines, dial back on heavy, high alcohol styles that were very popular in the mid-late 1990s through the 2000s. It's right about 2008. A lot was going on. I know I've heard you guys talk about it a lot back in that time. World was changing a little bit, and that was about the time people started seeking out wines that had a little bit lower alcohol, a little bit more acidity, a little bit more freshness. Wines that would be better with food, better at the table. You could have 2-3 glasses and still get up and feel great the next day, or you still have a clarity of thought and appreciation. It wouldn't leave your mouth fatigued. So there are wonderful people. Some they might start it in California. There was a movement in the late 2000s called In Pursuit of Balance, and it was a group of like-minded Pinot Noir and Chardonnay producers that were going to start harvesting a little bit early, using a little bit less oak, planting wine in cooler-sided vineyards, different expositions closer to the water, looking to make a brighter, fresher style of, in this case, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay at the time. But that has gone all over the wine world. There are young winemakers in Spain outside of Madrid doing the same thing with Garnacha, which again used to be super, I used to sell a lot of it, 15%, big, bold, jammy red from the center of hot places in Spain. And now they're planting it at higher elevations in granitic soils and getting wines that have still that dark fruit, but a freshness, a brightness, a lift, and an acidity that is just fascinating. There are people experimenting with different grapes than they used to. I kind of referenced, but I did spend almost 20 days in Australia earlier this year.
Awesome.
And the big takeaway is that Australia...
You must have a really cool boss.
I mean, we'll talk about it off air. He has so many good things. Jamie's the best. But there were people, I think a lot of us still think of Australia as being either critter wines like Yellowtail that you see at the bottom shelf of the grocery store, or big, heavy, high alcohol Shiraz from Barossa. And they're still that, and when they're well made, they're wonderful. But there are people, again, planting in cooler sites. I was out in Margaret River in Western Australia, close to the Southern Ocean and cool winds, surrounded by water on all sides. I was in Victoria, south of Melbourne, parts of Gippsland and Mornington Peninsula, where it's very cool climate, and people are making Pinot Noirs, Chardonnays, wines with elegance that would compete with Burgundy. And they're also experimenting with Italian varietals. There are more Italian varietals grown in Australia than anywhere outside of Italy. So they're making Vermentino, Fiano, Nero d'Avola, but they're finding these climates where it can be fresh, can be bright, can be fun, can be different, and absolutely delightful.
The Italian wine education the other day, it blew me away, because you were just throwing one fun wine after another out there. There was nothing that was middle of the road or you'd had before. every single one was special for a certain reason.
I really enjoyed that. That was our Alpine wines of
right.
Italy. So we were going from Alto Piemonte and Valtellina and Lombardy all the way over through Alto Adige into Friuli. And it was a lot of fun. I was actually just talking with Catherine. Saw there's a crab rigatoni dish that I thought would be perfect with the Malvasia we had that day. And I might have to try that. I'm coming in Sunday. I might have to
love
give
that.
Give that a whirl.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But it's fascinating. Yes, I've been talking about that higher altitude where you get a little bit cooler, a little bit more brightness. There's some special wines made up there.
Okay, so I've got a few, I don't want to say quick fire questions, but I feel like you
I'm
can
ready.
really get ready,
Hand on the
Michael.
buzzer.
Did you stretch out?
I'm ready.
Michael and I go to the gym sometimes together. But okay, so someone at a restaurant, how should they approach a wine list without feeling intimidated? Because sometimes it's like, wow, there's a whole lot of stuff here. And I think some people know the specific things that they like, or at least something that feels safe. But do you have any suggestions on how, when you get that wine list, how to navigate, where to suggest somebody goes?
Well, I mean, wine list design is fascinating, and with the right wine list design, it should be easy for anyone to navigate. It could be by country, could be by region. There are restaurants that will divide it into bright and fresh or dark and savory and things like that. My number one recommendation, regardless of where you are, would be just don't be afraid to ask to speak to the sommelier, or whoever's buying the wine. Do you have the wine steward here? Do you have a manager? Don't be afraid to ask. Where some people think I'm going to be intimidating, and I don't want. We're not looking to do that. We're looking to help.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you can tell us something you like, whether it's a grape you like, a wine brand you liked, what you're in the mood for. Don't be afraid to tell us a general price range you might be looking to spend. If you don't want to say it in front of your table, you can just say, I was looking at this wine here. Can you recommend anything similar? And that sommelier will know,
They've seen
about where
you are.
I see where you're,
I
see
like
where you're
to-
pointing.
Yeah, I like
You didn't
that.
have to say that out loud in front of the table, but I see what you're pointing at. And I can make a great recommendation.
I
on
like
that.
to be just pretty straightforward out there.
No
and-
nonsense,
and-
Jeff.
And just just be like, when the sommelier comes over, I ordered this, and I might say I like the Chardonnay grape, but not oaked or whatever, but depending on what we're eating, and just say, and tonight I'm good for anything $100 to $150
That's
bottle,
super helpful.
and just say, what I ordered, this is my price range, go for it.
Yes, we love that. Any information you can give us, we're looking to help. We're not looking to get rid of a bottle in the cellar. We're not looking to, get a wine with a certain price tag on your check. We are looking to help. And even if it's someone that doesn't have a sommelier certification, someone in that restaurant has picked out those wines or has trained somebody to know which ones to recommend. So, I see people in the restaurant all the time. They don't want they said they want to decide on their own, and then they get their phone out and I see them Googling the wines. Well, okay,
That's one way of doing it.
that is one way to do it, as they say. Bring it back around. And you know what? If they're interested in looking about wines, wonderful. But yes, my number one recommendation: don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to just be honest with what you're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. So if you're with a group, whether it's a corporate group or a family, that you're kind of put in charge of ordering. So we might have some business people out there, or people out there who have groups getting together or whatever. Do you have a wine that you would suggest, let's stay on white wines, that you would suggest for the whole table that you think is something everyone would probably enjoy? It's versatile, maybe doesn't completely break the bank, but also maybe is impressive or interesting in some way that the person doesn't feel like they're like, we'll just have the Chardonnay. Do you know what I mean? It feels.
Yes, and there are some people that don't like Chardonnay. So
Right.
That might have been the safe bet.
Then you call
10,
it
20 years
Chablis,
ago.
and they
Then you
won't
call
know.
it Chablis. So we have mentioned Albarino. There's a lot of people that love that. It goes over very well. We have mentioned Chablis. That's another very friendly option. So Chablis tends to be less oaky than other Chardonnays, so it does appeal to people that maybe don't think they like Chardonnay, like we talked about earlier. But one universal grape, you don't find it everywhere, but where you find it, I highly recommend it, and it's our number one white wine over at Everandolo, is Pinot Bianco, which is another one I think I've served y'all at least once, maybe one time in particular. But that is a grape that it's going to appeal to somebody that likes maybe a lighter unoaked Chardonnay. It's got enough citrus, crisp flavors to appeal to somebody that likes Sauvignon Blanc. It tends to over-deliver, so this is a wine that comes usually from Alto Adige in northern Italy, but they do grow it in other places. I've heard Tim Geiser, a master sommelier, say it is the perfect restaurant by the glass wine because it goes with so many things. It's unique, it's interesting, but it appeals to somebody that likes really any type of white wine. But Pinot Bianco would be another one I'd add to the mix.
I love that. Okay, couple summer dishes, and you're going to tell us some pairings here.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. So just your classic backyard burger. Now, I know some people might want a beer or a cocktail, but we're talking wines. What would you put with a classic backyard burger?
Backyard burger, I love Côte de Rhône.
Oh,
So that would be like a Grenache Syrah blend from the south of France, or Grenache grown, Grenache, as they say in Australia, or Garnacha in Spain. But yeah, Grenache is a wonderful burger. You can also do Zinfandel, or another Spanish grape I love with a burger is Mencia, a grape that kind of grows out near where Albarino grows, especially in an area called Bierzo. But that is a medium-bodied, spicy. You don't want to do anything too heavy or oaky. It's not you wouldn't do a Cab or a Bordeaux, the same kind of wine that you do with steak. Yeah. And if it's a lamb burger, Syrah.
Oh, wow.
I
Boom.
love that. The next one is grilled salmon and salad type of dish.
It's Jamie's dinner.
That's a lovely one. And this is, grilled salmon is a wonderful one to have with Chardonnay. Now, if you're doing it with lemon, maybe an oaked Chardonnay, Chablis is wonderful. And then salmon is one you can do with a red wine, Pinot Noir from Oregon, especially a lighter style. It's Pacific Northwest. They're having a lot of salmon out there. A lot of times, cedar plank salmon, grilled salmon out there. But a Pinot Noir, a lighter style, maybe not a heavy, expensive one with a lot of oak. And that you can have a little chill on that too.
I love that.
What if your friend, let's just, a random friend comes up to your cookout and they have on ice a packet of caviar in their pocket and they pull it out? I don't know if I have friends like that.
Lucky guy.
You did that once. What would you suggest to have with that caviar bump?
Well, I do like, we have talked about champagne. Caviar, again, very friendly with a lot of wonderful wines, but I do like champagne. I'm partial to my Blanc de Blanc. I think we've had a Pierre Peters with that before. But yeah, champagne or good traditional method sparkling wine and caviar. It's just,
Perfect.
That's one of life's great joys.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So if somebody wanted to just start learning more about wine, where would you suggest they begin? Like just a total novice, just interested in the topic, maybe not even to become trained as you are or anything, even at a level one, just learning about it. Are there any resources out there you suggest
Absolutely.
they begin?
Especially nowadays, there's so much online. One particular website that I've recommended to people is Wine Folly, started by Madeline Puckett, who not only is a wine expert, but she really has an eye for graphic design. So she makes the information very accessible, great with charts and maps and making it fun and
That's
easy to grasp.
Perfect for me. The picture book.
It really does a great job.
It's gorgeous the way they present it.
For wines, especially now, servers, other managers I've worked with looking to get into wine, there's always been a book, Windows on the World. It was written by Kevin Zraeli, who was the wine director at Windows on the World restaurant in the World Trade Center. That's always been my favorite intro to wine book. And then the main thing I tell guests at the restaurant that want to learn, find a local wine shop. Hopefully, especially around here, there's so many wonderful local independent wine shops. Find one in your neighborhood or that's convenient to you. They're probably doing free weekly tastings on a regular basis, or they might just have some sort of system with wines available to taste. Show up to a free wine tasting. There'll be someone there pouring the wines, letting you taste them, telling you a few things about it. It might be 2, 3, 4, 5 wines at a time, but they'll tell you a little bit about it. Maybe they'll tell you what food it goes with. They'll let you taste it, and just be a regular at your local wine shop. Try a few things. Go to their free tasting. Sign up for their emails, and that's my favorite way to recommend people learn about wine.
I love that. That's so great. Well, I feel like we have really learned a lot from you today, Michael. And I'm making you come back on here in the fall. We're going to dive into reds because today we focus mostly on whites.
Okay.
So be ready for that.
All right. Yes. Fall. We're not done with spring. We've still got our rosé party coming up. We didn't even get there.
I know. That's gonna
Yeah.
that is so much fun. Now, have you selected those rosés already?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe
It's
next
coming.
week. But yeah, so we'll have 16 rosés from around the world. This will be our 5th year doing it at Supperland. So I'm very
Unbelievable.
excited about that. And yeah, people do like their rosé in the summertime too.
Yes, they do. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. We have loved getting to talk with you. You did an awesome job. So much fun to talk with you.
Thank you for
Michael.
having me. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Jamie.
I loved having Michael on here. I mean, you can see just how passionate he is about what he does and how knowledgeable he is and why he has that level 3 pin on his jacket.
For sure. He is so fun. And one of my favorite things is when we go on food tours, if we can bring Michael with us, the level of what we experience is off the charts. He picks every single wine, and he a lot of times hits up the sommelier beforehand, and we decide what we're eating and what we're drinking, and it's incredible.
Yeah, his passion clearly comes through. And I think in his industry, he does a fantastic job of continuously learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been invaluable, not just as his knowledge continues to expand and broaden. It allows our menus to stay fresh and interesting. We're working with some of the most innovative winemakers across the globe because he stays on it. And it's not just that, but he's also passing that knowledge along to our team, too, through a lot of our training.
And what a fun job that he gets to travel around the world, but he has this foil of learning, immersing himself in the terroir, and just like really absorbing all the wine knowledge from that area. And who wouldn't want to choose where you vacation based on wine regions?
Oh, I know. So you all, if you visit us at Supperland or Alleluia Hall, he's on the floor there. Remember what he said? He said, don't be shy about asking a sommelier to come over to your table. He's more than happy to do that. And he would love to see you there. He also selects our wines at Haberdish and Everandolo as well. Everandolo having a fully Italian wine list. And so go see him at Supperland or Alleluia Hall and check out our wine list across the board, and we hope we can see you soon at one of the places. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Jeff and Jamie feed, and please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, shoot us a note, and we'd love to hear from you, and we'll catch you on the next one.